All right, welcome back to another edition of the Bebo Knows podcast. This is your host, Brian Bullock, and with me I have Alan Boston on once again. Welcome back to the podcast, Alan.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Cheers. Yeah, cheers. I like saying cheers.
Oh, cheers is a great
Prefer to
word.
say it. I like it.
Yep.
I think it's a very positive, happy word.
It is. Anytime I open
And
up,
we certainly need that nowadays with our government telling us what we can and can't do nonstop. It's getting a little out of control.
I do a good.
But we better not make this a political show, right? We got other things to talk about.
Yeah, I'm not prepared for a political show, so I'll
And I better not say what's on my mind because you might be off the air in 2 seconds. So
I don't really
to my podcast when they ban that.
So I really don't have I guess I really don't have an air, but yeah. All right, so we were supposed to do this last year, but unfortunately, things took a turn. So we're gonna,
Yeah, you might say that.
Yeah.
How about the shit hit the fan?
So yeah, so shit hit the fan. But thanks for joining here, and we're gonna just a little overview for those who haven't listened to this before. We'll get a little bit of a breakdown from Alan here on some of the games here, and but I'm gonna ask a few questions beforehand because I know that you came on maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and I think you were talking about like some of the betting edges that you you might have lost, and I was wondering if you had been able to regain any of them back, or if if you're still like in a kind of a little fog or something. I don't know the right word.
Well, if I was in a fog, I wouldn't. If I was in a fog, I wouldn't be alive because I wouldn't be eating. So I was pretty much done with college basketball. This is actually kind of a cool story. And a close friend I've known for a long, long time asked me, "Are you interested in doing some football and basketball?" I said, "I haven't done football in a while, but I got about $20 in my pocket, and this is not what I envisioned when I owned a multi-million-dollar home and had plenty of money. This is not quite where I thought my life was headed in my 60s." And he said, "Yeah, well, this guy's interested." And I called the gentleman up, and he had met me like in Vegas like 35 years ago or something, and peppered me with questions and admitted that I screamed at him eventually, but also admitted that maybe he asked one question too many, because that's not like me to scream at people who ask questions. So he probably did get under my nerves. Anyway, we made a deal, and football actually went very well, which surprised me because that's not my gig. And the modern football rules have made my approach difficult. I've had to change it, and I have not done well adapting to the wide open games. I think it becomes a little more mathematical, with possessions, and it used to be more of a smash mouth football. They used to, and the offensive lines were massively important, the defensive lines were important. Now it's a little less so like that. Anyway, we're not a football show, but it went well, and now comes basketball. And he asked me about, we talk, and he brings up these kids who do previews. So I go and read the previews, and they're unbelievable. Like, they combine tons of basketball knowledge with an old school vibe. They were true basketball fans. And we ended up hiring them to work with me because they know a lot more about basketball than I do. I know how to handicap. I don't really know basketball all that well. And unfortunately, I don't even know what happened. The guy I worked with could be a little dicey at times. And anyway, the next year, we worked things out again and created a rock solid deal for the kids. And after 2 weeks, we won so much money that this guy just was getting stiffed left and right, and new rules by all the guys who's bet with. And now I'm on my own. I can't do it like that. I can't be under restrictions where I can't bet till like an hour before the game time. The whole thing's just ridiculous. But I promised these kids, that they had a job for the year, so I wasn't really prepared for that. But we figured it out, and we did really well. And that's when COVID hit, unfortunately, at the end. And now they've been hired to do other things, and it's a three-man leave, kids. They do an excellent job, and they're very much worth a listen. And I always wanted to be a teacher, so teaching my methodology was kind of cool. And they took it and ran with it and created their own way of doing it. And if I'm honest, I'm going to do a podcast hoping to be able to do that with many people. So yeah, I had these 2 monster years from like nowhere. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that when I created initial rating on a team, I sort of go, the team typically plays within this range of numbers.
Sure.
Because the same team under the same coach is going to recruit the same type athletes. They're going to use the same systems, same offenses, same defenses. They might tweak it occasionally. The really good coaches will. But they're always going to kind of play to the same rating. There's just, like an Ivy League school is going to recruit an Ivy League athlete, and Duke's going to recruit a Duke athlete, and just everything in the middle. Not that the Ivy League's at the bottom. It's certainly not anymore. The Ivy League is actually recruiting much, much better players than they once did. Happily for me. But they knew just how good the teams were, or they knew better than I did. So when we talked out, what should we start this team, I could use here's what I think, and they could say, well, I think maybe they're a little better. These players they recruited are a little better, or this transfer is really rock solid. He's a former top 50 recruit, and all the stuff that I wouldn't know. And that second season, we just started off with such killer numbers to start that, it was just easy. Like, we just had the right number on almost every team. I didn't have to adjust much. Typically it's kind of a guessing game when you have a game. Let's say I have a game 5 and the game goes from, 9 to 11 and they win by 40. Well, clearly they bet the favorite and I like the underdog and they were right and I was wrong. So what do I do? And then I have to guess, do I want to change the favorites rating to more? Do I want to change the underdogs rating to less? Or do I want to do some combination of both? Or if I have a ton of faith at what I'm doing, screw it. I'm right, they're wrong. It was just an anomaly. But I didn't have to worry about that because we just won every game. It was just nuts. And this year I was on my own, and now COVID made things very, very interesting. And now they have all these back-to-back games, and it was so the back-to-back games, these Friday, Saturday games, they played in the same court, and the Wednesday, Thursday games, they played in the same court, which, there were a lot of them. It turns out this is a whole new dynamic, right? We never played this before. The Ivy League plays back-to-back games, but they play different teams on different courts.
Right.
It turned out to be more of a game theory type thing. So the second game result was predicated almost exclusively on how the first game played out. If the team, and what was especially strong, and I won't get into the whole gory details of it, just understand that it wasn't really a handicap. It was more whatever happened in game 1 created the dynamic for game 2. So a road favorite that lost the first game was almost 100% certain to win the second game. And that kind of makes sense, right? The road favorite is the better team. And once that first game's gone, this sort of the underdog feels like, all right, we won the game. We won 1 out of 2. We're good with that. And the road team would come in with tremendous focus the second game. And when you have a focused favorite, that's the best bet there is in sports. Because the underdog typically has a little more pizzazz, a little more energy, just because of the underdog. It's just human nature. So that was kind of a new puzzle to solve, and I'm pretty good at solving puzzles, but I never really got that one. I was kind of all over the place with it, and it evolved, and you never really had enough of a sample size to know right from wrong, and I had some ideas that I thought were right, and I don't know. It's just something I didn't have enough reps with, and so that was a bit of a struggle. But up until a month ago, I was having like an unbelievable year, and then I had a very, very bad week, and now I start. Once you start losing it, I'm a human being. I'm not a computer, and you lose a little faith in what you're doing, and things can unravel pretty quickly, and they have. However, a lot of it had to do with just some really, really ugly luck, like some ugly runouts into the end, and losing games +5 in overtime, game after game, and random 3-pointers at the buzzer. It's just been kind of ugly. So I was buoyed by the fact that last week, even though I lost, the work was excellent. I had mostly good sides, and so that's where I'm at. I've actually my work's actually been probably as good as it's ever been the last few years. That's the bottom line.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Until the last month. The last month is kind of rocky. So yeah, I've ironed out whatever issues I had, and I think you know, I'm a human being, and it's just I'm not a kid anymore either. You're a kid, you always have this confidence that, you know, and by a kid I mean in my 30s. That's when I started doing this. But that's still a kid. You'll learn that as you get older.
Sure.
You know, now in my 60s, it's like, what the fuck am I still doing this for? And you just because I really shouldn't have been. I had a house that was worth an inordinate amount of money that I didn't know much on, but then the housing market crashed, and I had to sell the thing, and I sold it below, and of course I got needled because my friend just sent me he just sent me, he said, what was your address in Vegas? I said, 19324 Verlaine. And he sent me a picture of something he got in the mail. Another record sale by Tom Love or whoever the hell it was, you know? And of course they sold it for like $1 million more than I did. I'm like, oh, fuck. You know, it's a nice big fat needle right in my heart. Yeah, so what when I would lose as a 32-year-old, I knew I was going to win the next day because this was all new and exciting, and you know, this is what's my brain just works very, very efficiently in logic problems, and that's all this is to me. Each game is just a logic problem. You have to solve it. But now at 60-something years old, with the subconscious thought in the back of my head is, I can't believe I'm still doing this. You know, when the guy called me and I did really well, it was like it was maybe the first time in my life I took some pride in what I'm doing. I've never been proud of picking basketball games because it's kind of easy to me. I have taken pride in the gym where it's not easy for me, and I've succeeded there too. But anyway, that's it. Enough of that.
So as far as like this season being a unique one, are there things that you can use in future years that you might not have thought about based on like how, you know, like how having to adjust to, you know, all the different variants of this year?
No, I think this is a complete outlier.
Okay.
Because you know, you don't know the rules for COVID are different in every state, and so you don't know how impacted these practices have been. You don't know half the time because they're not allowed, doctor-patient privilege, they're not allowed to say, you know, who has a positive test, who's under contact tracing, and it's just been kind of, it's been more about COVID and less about handicapping, and unfortunately, you know, I used to read the newspapers online, and that's not where you get the information anymore. And where you do get the information requires an inordinate amount of time. And unfortunately, I'm on my own. And like I said, you know, I like up until a month ago, and even the last month has not been as horrible as been. The results have been, but the work's been really, 2 out of the 4 weeks, the work was actually excellent. I'm alone. I'm 60. Almost 63, and you know, it's only 24 hours in a day, and I do have to sleep at some point.
Sure.
And I can't be sitting there, you know, staring at Twitter all day, and we should have hired somebody. You know, that's what we should have done. We should have paid whatever we had to pay to have someone just sit there, and, you know, I could tell them pretty much where to look for, what to look for, and, you know, I would have been at least a little more in tune with what's going on when a game starts moving, and I'm jumping in, and then I find out, oh, shit, half my team's out, you know, and now you're just screwed, right? So I didn't have that happen too often, but, you know, it didn't have to happen at all, really, if we were more prepared for this. But no, I don't think there's anything to be learned from this other than, you know, 20-year-old Division I. Chris Mooney actually said this at Richmond. He said, why are 20-year-old Division I athletes, healthy 21-year-old Division I athletes, under the same protocols as 80-year-old people? And really that's it in a nutshell, because what they did to these kids was sheer lunacy. Quarantining them in rooms for 7 days, just locking them in there, like that is not a good thing for anyone. Never mind a 20-year-old kid who's out there, you know, playing basketball 8 hours a day. So some teams handle it better than others, and, you know, I'm sure the wealthier teams maybe had better places to stay and made it more comfortable, or maybe set up a little gym in the room. You don't know. That stuff that's unknowing. And anyway, you know, hopefully normalcy will return soon, which it looks like it's going to, according to Johns Hopkins University. Not according to Dr. Fauci, but he likes to shove that vaccine down our throats so he can make his $100 million from each of the vaccine companies, whatever the hell they're going to pay him to shove it down our throats. But anyway, again, we don't want to get political, but I couldn't help myself because I am so sick of hearing that fucking asshole. You can delete that out, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. No biggie. So as far as as far as the tournament goes, do you like the idea of all the games being in the Indy area?
Yeah, I think they had to do something like that too, because you can't just laugh at COVID in the face, right? I mean, but the reality is no kid. I think there's only been one hospitalization this entire year, and there's been just an inordinate number of COVID cases, and people who are in contact with it. It's been overwhelming. I mean, several teams have stopped playing. The Ivy League chose not to play this season, which, by the way, I'm sure was the right approach to all this, because this is about money. This ain't about kids enjoying basketball, right? Because there's no joy in this.
Sure.
This is all about money and has been right from the get-go. And that's what makes it reprehensible. But that being said, I think, Indiana's the haven for basketball in this country. It's got the, this massive high school playoff thing that's just a big event in itself. I think they even bet on high school basketball in Indiana, illegally, of course. But and I think it's appropriate that Hinkle and Purdue, Mackey Arena, whatever it's called, get games. It's and it reduces travel, and that's how they did it all year. They just played games in what they call bubbles. I called it Mohegan Casino, hotel and casino, if you wish, but they called it a bubble. Okay, that's a good idea, and I think that's appropriate. I think Florida might have been better. That's where they're playing the CBI. If you can imagine, they're actually playing the CBI, which at one time was a pay for the home court game tournament, but now they're just throwing it in somewhere in Florida, I read. And Army made the CBI, if you can imagine. Yeah, so I think that's the only way for them to handle it, and I think Indiana, being kind of the mecca for basketball, is the right place. There's a lot of good arenas there, and and they'll have no problem handling it like this. I think it actually is made for maybe even a fairer. Well, we'll get into that, but
Okay.
I think they mostly got it right, actually. With the teams. So
Yeah, I kind of like the idea, even outside of the virus going on. Like, I feel like that would be a good thing going forward. But I don't know how they'll treat that in future years.
Oh, no. They don't make any money like this. They need bigger arenas with more fans and and more opportunities for the West Coast to get involved and the East Coast to get involved.
Yeah, that's true.
If it's all in Indiana, there's only so many hotel rooms there, and they could never fill up all those arenas and have enough space for all the people and media that they're going to attend. So
yeah, that's a good point.
This is a one up deal, and next year we'll have our normal tournament with the normal committee screwing everybody over that they want, and they did a good job of that this year too. But we'll get to that.
So transitioning into that, before we go into the bracket by bracket, I was gonna have you confirm what team or teams you thought got screwed the hardest in terms of either not making it or their seeding.
Well, the seeding is just so. I sort of predicted this, but I didn't think they could possibly do it just based on the team's resume. But in my head, I knew they were going to do something. I just couldn't figure out what. So what they did is just so egregious and disgusting, and just proves what I've been saying along, that this is a completely corrupt system. And it makes sense. Like, there's $1 billion TV contract. I wrote out an article for somebody, and he tweaked it, and I told him, forget it, don't. And it was a very scathing essay, pretty much, honing in on Loyola Chicago. So they created this net rankings, and they claimed that this was, they were going to use that strongly in their evaluation of a team. Well, Loyola is number 10 in the net ranking. By my power rankings, Loyola Chicago would be a 5 or 6 seed, and more likely a 5. Just because their record was so good, they did nothing wrong. They really, it's hard to be a 20-point favorite every night. And the one, the couple good teams they played, I watched that North Texas game. By the way, North Texas is in the tournament. And they really were very, very impressive against an excellent North Texas team who extremely well coached, will give anyone fits with their intelligence and their ability to control tempo and just defend with a lot of fervor. And you know, they did lose in Wisconsin, Loyola, and they lost to Richmond, but that was early in the year, and this is Porter Moser, and they just got so good by the end of the year that, you know, they were beating Drake in that finale was just so good because Drake wasn't sure they were in, and Drake is just an excellent team that doesn't give anything away at all, and you know, so if you're 10 in that ranking, right, you wipe out the top 8 teams for the 1 and 2 seeds. That leaves you as a 3 seed. So by the committee's main, and maybe it's not their main thing, it's their main thing when they want it to be. That's the point, right? They have all this nonsense they look at, but they only use what they want to use to put teams where they want them. And it's always the mid-majors that get screwed. I could think of other words that maybe I should skip. But this one has really takes the cake, right? Because here's a team that made the Final Four not long ago, that has this whole Sister Jean thing. They were the darlings of the media. And here's where it gets a little dicey. So they asked the CBS rep years ago when Loyola made the Final Four about Loyola Chicago, and he said, I'd rather see Kentucky. And that's it in a nutshell. When the head of CBS just comes out and says, we'd rather have Kentucky, they're saying they're looking for big ratings. Now, a study was done. They took Loyola's games, after the season was over, they took Loyola's games in the time slot they played on the network they played, right? They play it on 4 different networks, one of which you can't even find, that True Network. I never find that one. But anyway, I'll get better with modern technology and just talk to my remote. It'll tell me where to go. But yeah, I'm not doing it. Sorry, I don't want to pretend I'm schizophrenic and then watch a basketball game. It might be too much for me, depending on whether I'm stoned or not. Anyway, someone actually did a study. I read this whole article. It was amazing. And he took all of Loyola's games in the time slot they played. I'm repeating myself now. Sorry, just to get this back to, you know, I go on these tangents. And I'm going to stop saying, that's annoying. And what they found was Loyola beat, and let's skip the first round game because that doesn't really count. Because after they beat Miami in the first round, now, you know, people are aware that this might be an interesting team to watch. So every game after that, taking their game in that time slot, comparing it to years past games in that time slot, and Loyola's ratings beat them every time. And beat them significantly sometimes. So in fact, Loyola's ratings were fantastic. And what I don't understand with this committee and everything is when you think about the NCAA tournament, at least when I do, and I know when I talk to people, which isn't too often, by the way, they always talk about the upsets. They always talk about the Cinderellas, the original Gonzaga Cinderella team until they kind of crossed over to a power school. Then Butler, when they made back-to-back finals under Brad Stevens, you know, from the Horizon League, wherever the hell they were in. And then Loyola Chicago and George Mason prior to them. People remember these Final Fours. I think they remember them better than even who won the title game.
Yeah.
Because people love the underdog. They love that Cinderella. Even some of these early first-round upsets are always talked about the most. That's the first thing you see on ESPN. Big upset in the first round, and there it is. So I don't understand why the head of CBS or all the powers that be try to shove these big-name schools down our throat, because that is truly not what sells. Based on that Loyola Chicago study, based on what I've seen, based on people who have talked to me, now maybe they know, you know, what I'd be most likely to talk about. But it would seem, we'll go that way, it would seem like a good underdog story is better than anything else you could do. And yet, year in and year out, when this committee puts the draw together, it is the underdog that is screwed over, and screwed over big time, and it's been none worse than this. This team could be no worse than a 6 seed, and that's really screwing them. And, to me, a 5 is appropriate. But by their own net rankings, Loyola Chicago should be a 3. All right, so why saddle them with an 8 seed? Well, guess what? The 4-1 seeds this year happen to be extraordinarily strong. More than any other year, these 4-1 seeds are off the charts good. So if you have an 8 or a 9 seed, guess who you're playing in the second round? Sorry, Loyola. And by the way, we're going to make it real cute. We're going to have you play Illinois in the second round.
Yeah.
That's if you even beat Georgia Tech, who must be sitting there saying, Georgia Tech, they won the ACC tournament. The ACC tournament winners, I don't think has ever had worse than a 4 or 5 seed. And here they are with the best, they had like the strongest schedule this year, which is something supposedly the committee cares about. They won the ACC tournament, which is a big deal to the committee. And they gave Georgia Tech a fucking 9 seed. I mean, seriously. And have to play Loyola Chicago in the first round. Now, do you really think that North Carolina or Duke or any of the other darlings of the committee would end up with an 8 or a 9 seed if they won the ACC tournament? There's not one chance in a million. Don't get me wrong, this is not a great Georgia Tech team, but you can't have it both ways. You can't just have, oh, well, the team's not that good, we'll give them a 9 seed. Oh, the team won the ACC tournament, we'll give them a 3 seed. It's one or the other.
Sure.
Yet this committee does not work like that. It's Georgia Tech, they're not a big draw. Fuck them, we'll give them a 9 seed. And not only that, we're going to really screw them because we could give them an 8 seed who should be like a 4 seed. So, it's just disgusting. So they're eliminating all the teams that they think aren't going to draw big crowds to the television, and that's what they're doing. And no one can convince me otherwise. Remember, I do these power ratings. I know exactly where all these teams belong. I know exactly who the better teams are. This committee is typically made up some pretty smart guys, so they know what they're doing too. Anyway, that's my speech. I'm done with that. Let's. People who have heard me before have heard all this before, but this Loyola Chicago thing has really gotten my gourd, I guess the word is. Oh, and for the record, the other non-power school that was a big threat to make a big run is St. Bonaventure, and guess what seed they got? Correct, they got a 9. Just to be different, they gave them a 9, not an 8. And by the way, they're playing LSU, who is an 8 seed that should be a higher seed too. So it's just over and over and over and over. And when North Texas beat Western Kentucky, I was on the phone with a friend. I said, well, you know what? They're going to play either Creighton or Purdue in the first round. Well, they're playing Purdue. And there's no proof that I said that, but just trust that I'm not someone that bullshits, not like one bit. That's exactly what I said. I was thinking they'll be like a 11, 12, 13 seed, and Purdue Creighton's right around 4, 5, 6. So there it is. They're playing Purdue, which actually kind of makes more sense because they both kind of grinded out half-court teams, and North Texas will have a hard time dealing with Purdue. Like Purdue's the one team that maybe North Texas will North Texas will give them fits because McCaslin's amazing, but they'd rather play someone who plays fast, get them into a half-court game, and make their lives miserable. Teams that play fast don't want to play slow. They often get anxious. That was the whole point of 35 seconds and 45-second clocks being so powerful for the underdog, because they could control tempo and make these athletic teams that make their lives miserable. You get anyone out of a rhythm, and often they don't perform well. And that's why in the old days when it was 45-second clocks and teams who ran good offense could run all this good offense for 45 seconds and just make these teams defend forever, and eventually they would crack. And that's why you saw a lot more upsets in the first round. But the powers that be said, well, screw that. We can't have all these upsets because we need all our big boys to make all the money and, be on ESPN. And so they made it 45 seconds to 35 seconds and now 30 seconds. And believe me, if they had it their way, they'd go right to 24, just like the pros. And ignoring the fact that this is supposedly about the student athlete, not a glorified NBA minor league. So that's it. The two teams that got, I don't think St. Bonnie got screwed. I think, like a 9 seed is probably good for them. But the fact that they're there, I don't think is coincidence. And the fact that they're playing a very brutal 8 seed in LSU is not a coincidence. Because the two teams the two non-power schools, Loyola Chicago and St. Bonnie, who could have made the Final 8 and maybe even the Final 4 on a good day, are saddled with ridiculous draws. Not a coincidence. Never has been. Always been that way. I'm done.
Okay.
The most overseeded team is BYU. They they'd be at least a 3-point dog to Loyola Chicago and at least a 2-point dog to LSU, and that's their 8-9, and they gave BYU a 6. I don't know where they came up with that one. Maybe the Mormons made a big donation to the committee or something. Who the hell knows? Sorry.
I'm just picturing the Mormons making a big donation to the NCAA.
Yeah, well, they got plenty of money, so.
Yeah. All right, so let's.
They also have great fans. I mean, BYU's got a great home court. It's awesome. I've never been to Salt Lake City. I kind of want to go there.
Yeah, I've only been to Utah once in my life.
I used to drive through every year when I used to go from Vegas to Maine. It was actually a beautiful ride, and then through the Rocky Mountains. There's nothing like it. Nothing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
All right, so
fuck it all up. No, they're destroying the environment at a rate that's just unsustainable. Like, we're not going to have a planet soon, and no one cares. Hey, let's go modernize Africa. Yeah, who cares about all the elephants and rhinos and chimpanzees? Oh, the indigenous people who live in the woods were bulldozing a road through there? Oh, we didn't know you were there. Sorry. See ya. We just polluted all your water and took away all your food sources. Fuck you. Yeah. And the planet's going to rise in temperature because the Amazon cools at I forget, 10 degrees or something. And someone should have done something to the guy who's the head honcho down there. All right, enough.
All right, we'll start with the. I was gonna go,
do whatever you want.
Bracket by bracket. So I was gonna start with the.
I don't even know who's in the brackets, to be honest with you.
So I could just read off the. If you want me to read off the games, I have all the games listed here. So the West.
Go. I know who's playing each other. I just don't know who's in the bracket. I don't know who's advancing to play who. I don't even look at that stuff because it's all about the games to me, right? Sure, it doesn't matter who they play in the next round.
Well, especially now that they're just throwing the geographical moniker on there, even though everything's in Indianapolis anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So we have in the quote unquote
that
West.
Is better for these playing teams. Which, by the way, I don't believe in playing games because why? The Wimbledon tennis tournament. They don't have. They have the they have the qualifying round, which to me is like the. Hold on one second. Hold on. There's an interview I'm supposed to do. Hold on, please. Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem.
All
right, so we're gonna stick with we're gonna go on the West side where it's the Gonzaga bracket. I don't know if you need all the games listed or not, but it's Gonzaga versus the.
No, I know who's playing who. I just don't know. Okay. I think Gonzaga plays the winner of Mount St. Mary's, but I just kind of remember that. But that's it. I don't really. It doesn't really matter. I'm trying to pick the winner of the game, not the winner of the tournament.
Sure.
I do have Alabama at 29-1, so people should know that. And I do think Gonzaga at 2-1 is a good bet to win the tournament. They got a really good draw.
Yeah, it seemed to make everybody.
Really good.
Yeah, it seemed to make everybody else's draw a lot more difficult. They seem to.
Well, they're trying to. By the draws, they're definitely trying to get this Gonzaga Baylor thing going because both of those got very, very favorable draws. While Illinois just got an absolutely brutal draw, with the usual suspects thrown in there to make sure they get screwed over too. I'm sure West Virginia's in there somewhere. I think I saw that.
Yeah, they're in the Illinois.
Although they actually got a pretty good draw until then, so it's not as bad as West Virginia usually gets, but it's no bargain.
So the Gonzaga side, so there's the Missouri-Oklahoma game. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that one.
It's an interesting game. I made it pick, and Missouri had a big advantage this year. They all 5 starters came back, and in this COVID year where they had no pre-conference, they had very few practices. Having 5 starters back for obvious reasons was a ginormous advantage. And they started off red hot. In fact, they even beat Illinois at home, which how good's that look right now? That's just extremely good. However, at the end of the year, they were extremely erratic, and losing your senior game at home to LSU is not a good sign. And then the tournament game against Arkansas, that was a little unlucky. The game's on 3, and Arkansas's shot clock's winding down, and the guy banked one in, and that was the end of it. But Missouri's got to be able to do a little better against Arkansas. Arkansas is no killer team, at least in my opinion. Most people would disagree with that, by the way. So what is Missouri? And so, when I do my ratings, it's all about, what the team typically plays to. And Quanzo Martin has built this program, and this is his home run year. This is his team. He's always recruits. Well, he's been there a while. It's all his recruits, all the starters back, virtually the whole team back intact. And this is his year. But I feel like they've kind of had that big advantage and have leveled off. And what's that leveling off point? What is it? Is it, and by my power ratings, I have them a 92, which is a good team. Very good team. But typically they're more like an 89 and a half-ish type team. So this is a high number for them still. And there's a point to all this. Oklahoma is typically your 91-ish. And they're also at a 92. They blipped up to even higher here. They went to like a 4 outlook not long ago, and they won like 3 or 4 in a row. And then people, have film, scouted for it, and adjusted for it, and they ended the year pretty bleakly. So again, Oklahoma played to a number that was really extraordinary. This team was not supposed to be that good this year. And they also leveled off. So you have two teams who had their moments this year of brilliance, who are both kind of leveling off here as the year ends. I think they're both very similar. I think the game should be picked, but there's this problem of Lon Kruger, almost never loses a first-round game. He is unbelievable at putting together game plans, especially in the offensive end. He just finds ways to get good shots for his team, and they make them. And I kind of want to bet Missouri because the line is wrong. It's not wrong a lot, but it's wrong. And if anything, I think Oklahoma might still be a smidgen too high, and I'm not so sure Missouri still is. So I might even be angling towards Missouri, a half-a-point favorite. But I really don't want to screw with Lon Kruger in the first round, so I'm just going to leave it alone.
Okay. All right, the next one I have is U.S.
Which, by the way, means if it goes to Oklahoma 2.5 or 3, obviously I'm betting Missouri.
Sure.
So just as an addendum.
Sure, makes sense.
That's the right word. Okay.
Yeah. So UCSB versus Creighton, and by the way, if I quote a line here, I was looking at Bookmaker.
I know what the line is.
Yeah, I was looking at Bookmaker earlier today, so I was just using that line. But Creighton 7.5.
I can give you the up-to-date line if you want. It's not a problem. I can go right on here and see it. I actually can do that. I'm capable of that. See, I can punch the computer out and hit this button here, and up comes the lines. And I see Richmond's 3 over Toledo. Toledo's 3 over Richmond. Fuck, that means those guys are probably out. Oh well. Another tough game. I'm about to in the NIT. I made a big bet on Richmond in the NIT tonight, but it looks like they might have 2 starters out. That would be very disappointing. But winning the hard way is more fun, right?
Sure.
So Cal Santa Barbara, and when are they playing Thursday or Friday?
I don't know. I think
they're in the Gonzaga bracket. There they are. Yeah. So it's 7. Mainly Creighton 7 now. So my number in this game was Creighton 9. I didn't change either team's rating virtually the entire year, so I'm very, very comfortable with 9. Pasternack's done an amazing job at Santa Barbara. He's got a senior-laden team, which is a good thing for the tournament, not especially, just it's a good thing late in the year because freshmen sometimes get a little worn down. Typically in these NCAA tournament games, you would want to bet the older teams versus the younger teams, but this has not been a long season for a lot of these teams, and a lot of them are still pretty fresh, or disgusted by what's transpired, and they've had enough. And that was kind of what happened at the end of the year. A lot of these teams had just mailed it in, and there were an inordinate amount of blowouts, and that's not good for me because when games get overpriced, I'm going to bet the bad team, and bad teams had no chance at the end of the year. That's just an aside. So I made this game 9. I not sure what I laid because someone else does all the betting. I just do the handicapping. But I tried to bet -6 for a lot and -6.5 for almost a lot. And if we're going to lay 7, it's not going to be for much. But I would even lay 7 with Creighton. I'm very, very comfortable with that number 9. Like I said, I haven't changed any rating on these teams for two months now. I got to the right number and stuck with it. And there's nothing more I could say. I'm not a matchup guy. Creighton's extremely well coached. I'm not so sure that's the case for Santa Barbara. I will say I think Santa Barbara runs a lot of set plays. And, you know, with McDermott having film on all that, I think that Creighton will be more than ready for anything Santa Barbara throws at him, and I would expect Creighton to have a pretty good chance to cover this.
Okay. All right. And then
Creighton's offense is hyper efficient, and really nothing you can do about it, no matter how much film you look at it. They execute so well. It's and yeah. Next.
Okay. Okay.
We'll be here all day otherwise.
So Ohio versus Virginia.
Yeah, this is kind of this was an avalanche of money on Ohio U. The game's 7 now, down from the opener of 10.5. And the reason, of course, they bet all this is, and this sucks for me because I'm a big Ohio U fan, is Virginia's in lockdown. The rules in Virginia are different than the rules in Kansas, no doubt because of the basketball teams. But Kansas, who had a positive COVID test the same day that Virginia had a positive COVID test, is practicing in the bubble. With one player absent, while Virginia is still in their hotel rooms practicing via Zoom. They will arrive on Thursday at the bubble. If everyone tests okay, they will practice on Friday and play on Saturday. Now, I do believe that when Virginia gets there and everyone tests okay and they're announced that all their players are going to be there playing, that the line will go back up. Which is what I'm hoping for, because I watched Ohio U. I don't watch many games, but I watched Ohio U's game against Buffalo in the conference tournament finale, which is one of my rare winners of last week. And this team was just immense. And if you go all the way back towards the beginning of the year, they played a team called Illinois and pretty much took them right to the wire. They lost by 2, but it was a game they could have won just as easily as lost. And you know, just think about that right now. You know, Illinois is a 1 seed and a legit 1 seed, not some horseshit 1 seed. You know, this is a legit 1 seed. They're just fantastic team, but we'll talk about them in a little bit. I watched Ohio U just whip this ball around, and they got a bevy of shooters who they get open looks for them because their offense just is rapid fire passing. It's very pure, very old school, and they have a guy in the middle who knows what he's doing, too. I'm not good with names. Their point guard, Preston's immense. When he got hurt, this freshman came in and played extremely well, too. So now they have him. They have a lot of guys who know what they're doing. Jeff Bowles is a Steve Pickle, a Rutgers coach, assistant. That whole tree is amazing. So he's triple smart, and I don't think that Virginia's pack line will give them much trouble. And when that happens, you know, it's not like Virginia's some overwhelmingly talented team. They get by giving nothing away on either end of the court. And, you know, their coach is just a genius. But they do what they do. He's not one to tweak things. He says, here's what I'm doing, try and beat it. And most of the time you can't. From what I saw of Ohio U, and again, I'm not some genius basketball analyst, I think Ohio U solves it. And I think Ohio U has a very good chance of winning this game. And, you know, the number got away so fast that there's nothing I can do about it. But I'm kind of hoping it goes back up, because if it does, I will be betting Ohio U and maybe some Ohio U money line, just in case that I think that might be the way to go, because if the impact of practicing via Zoom an entire week, you know, is a huge negative, which I'm not so sure it is, then Ohio U certainly has a great chance to win this game.
Okay, so like when you so like in a little aside, I don't.
My number was 7 on this game, by the way. Virginia's 7. That's what I made it.
Okay. So when you decide to bet on like money lines of like the underdogs, is there a certain like mindset like I'm gonna decide to bet like X percent of what I'm betting on the game itself, or like you kind of
There's no rhyme or reason for anything I do.
Okay.
No, I'm a total throwback. I still use 3-ring binders. I still do everything in my head. I'm talking now off the top of my head. I'm not looking at anything. I'm looking at the line on the screen. That's it.
Okay.
So, you know, I could make mistakes in this talk because I can't remember everything anymore. I'm not a kid anymore. And, you know, it's just, it's kind of depressing, but it is what it is, you know. But I never was a math guy. I never envisioned a career in sports betting. I didn't come out here to be a sports bettor. It just kind of happened. I kind of fell into it. And I'm not going to get into that whole story because we don't have all day. But, you know, maybe if I do my podcast, I'll talk about that at length. Maybe I'll even do a whole podcast on that. But,
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not a very good guy to ask about why you bet X amount because I kind of just wing everything.
Okay.
And I very rarely bet money lines, but just, it's just all logic to me. So logically, if Virginia is not ready for this, why take the points? Because if they're not ready for this, they're probably going to lose. It's probably going to be a real disaster, right? Like that, locked up in a hotel room for a week and then going playing basketball on 1 day's rest after traveling, 1 day's practice after traveling, just can't be a good dynamic for them. And if it impacts them in a negative way, they're going down. Like this is a team that could take them out and take them out pretty easily. I would think because Ohio U just their offense is beautiful. Where do you watch this team? This is really a special team to watch.
Yeah.
And maybe my watching is going to hurt me because Buffalo's not the greatest defensive team on the planet. But I don't think anyone could stop what they did. It was just really beautiful to watch.
Okay.
So that's my sole purpose. In fact, the money line thing just came as we were talking. I have not bet them on the money line yet.
Okay. No problem. All right. So I don't know
that
how.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So I don't know if I want to discuss the games where there's a playing game involved. I'm just gonna skip.
No, let's skip those because we don't know who they're playing. I can't, and I can't talk at length.
Yeah. So
and without a point spread, I can't really tell you anything. I'm not the kind of guy who can go over, that they run a lot of pick and roll or they run a lot of matchup zone or whatever they do on offense and defense. That's not me. To me, it's just a logic problem, and let's try to solve it, and let's try to solve it as simply as we can. So by worrying about what stuff they run and what percentages they shoot and whether there's going to be regression or any of this other stuff, to me, it's just, it's cool to listen to, but it doesn't really do much for handicapping. And I think I'm right about that.
Yeah.
Keep it as simple as you can.
Yeah, there's other podcasts that if people want to listen to that, they can. It's no problem. So
yeah, you won't get that from me. But I just want to make that clear. Whoever's listening, why isn't this guy talking about what these other guys talk about? Well, because I don't know. I'm not that smart.
Yeah. All right,
Except I am that smart.
Just not in that aspect, but
just not fine. In that realm, right?
Yeah.
5'8" Jews don't play basketball. I hate to tell you. I was a good baseball player, though. Okay, next.
Oh, all right, Eastern Washington and Kansas.
Yeah. So I made this game 10, but Kansas is down one of their better players. And I'll give you a name here in a second. What the hell's his name? Just give me 1 second here. I'll just pull the name up here. I wrote it down. Jaylen Wilson, right. He's like 12-plus points and 8-plus rebounds a game, so very, very good. Kansas does have a bevy of athletes, and, I'm not sure he's worth a heck of a lot, but, 12 points and 8 rebounds, or actually more on both. I think it's 12.1 and 8.2 rebounds. There you go. That's the exact numbers. That's got to be something. So my number's 10, and maybe it's 9 or 9.5 with him being out. It's still Kansas. They're still loaded with talent. And they played very well this year. Good job by Bill Self. They've had their issues with injuries, and they're coming out of COVID, but that doesn't bother them because they just go and practice. That's toss the rules out the window when it comes to basketball in Kansas, right? But that being said, I think they're actually right because, like I said, they're 20-year-old Division I athletes. They're not going to get sick. Their odds of dying are almost zero. That's if they even get the flu. And if they even get the flu, they're probably like even money to be asymptomatic anyway because these are healthy kids who can repel a lot of disease, and it might even be better for them to get the disease. But again, I'm not going to go there because then I'd have to start with Fauci again, and I just get my blood boiling and my blood pressure up, and I've been actually lost some weight lately and going back to the gym and have my abs back, and that's kind of cool. As for this basketball game, I'm not sure what Eastern Washington can do to stop a burial here. My number says that it's slightly below what the price is, which is 10 and 10.5 out there. So I can't bet Kansas, but my instinct doesn't think this is a very good matchup for Eastern Washington. I will say that early in the year, Eastern Washington went to Arizona and almost won, went to St. Mary's and almost won. They're certainly capable of hanging with the big boys. But St. Mary's was down this year, and Arizona was down this year. And Kansas is pretty good about, winning when they're supposed to. And my instinct says Kansas is going to run them out of the gym. Eastern Washington's kind of fun to watch, but it defensively they're a little shaky, and Kansas could have a real picnic just because they out-athlete them so much. So I'm leaving it alone, but I would expect Kansas to win kind of easily. I'm just not betting it because my number says otherwise.
Okay. All right, VCU versus Oregon.
Okay, so I would expect this game to go up. I made this game 3.5, but they bet St. Bonnie up to 3.5 over VCU in the finals of the Atlantic 10 tournament, just from kind of nowhere. Like the game was pick 'em the entire year, and then they just bet St. Bonnie to 3.5, and the game just played out bad for St. Bonnie. You can almost toss this game. Bones Highland had 3 fouls 6 minutes into the game. The game was 10-10 when he went to the bench. There was a technical foul that swung the game once again St. Bonnie's way. And then even then, when VCU was making a run in the second half, the game's on 6, and St. Bonnie hits a 3-pointer at the shot clock at 0 with a guy in his face, and then hit another 3 next time down the court, and the game was finally over. So I just tossed that game to, of course, minus $1 trillion for me, and another bit of bad luck because the game just didn't play out for St. Bonnie's way. Oregon finally got healthy. They're loaded with talent, and they have an amazing NCAA tournament coach. I remember Altman's teams at Creighton just giving teams fits. I remember humiliating Billy Donovan one year, which brought me a lot of joy. I am not a Billy Donovan fan. I think he's like the most overrated coach maybe ever. And then, people who watch him in the NBA will tell me I'm a complete idiot, and so be it. But I would like to take some film of his Florida teams and show them why I think I'm right. Anyway, that's just a little aside. So my number's 3.5, but they bet all this money against Virginia Commonwealth in the Atlantic 10 final. So I'm wondering why Oregon's not getting bet here. Because St. Bonnie's 3.5, Oregon's got to be probably at least 6. So I'm waiting for this to go to 6, and then I'll be betting Virginia Commonwealth, and it's strictly off my number. I'm not going to make a big bet on it because Altman is so good as an NCAA tournament coach. He can bring out any one of like 10 different presses and 20 different defenses, and VCU kind of does what they do, and it's all very it's all out there, and in film, and I'm sure Altman will have his team very well prepared. So a number bet on VCU, but not one made with much alacrity, because Altman's the shit in these NCAA tournament games. He's really, really good, and the team should be at their peak because they're 100% healthy for the first time all year, for an extended period of time. So that's that quick analysis there.
Okay. All right, Grand Canyon versus Iowa.
See how simple you can keep it?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but think about it. Like, if you have a number, and I think this needs to be said, actually. So if you have a number on a team, that incorporates all the offense they run, all the defense they run, all the preparation they run, how they handle their meals, how they handle their practices, how they handle the travel. It's all in that number, because the number is what they've done in the actual games. So I don't have to know about all that shit because it's all in my number. It's kind of cool to listen to and fun to listen to, but to me, it's almost all irrelevant because I've captured everything that they've done into this number. I would call it a program number, but I don't want to go into explaining all that. That's just a term I invented many moons ago to try to explain my methods. But at this point of the year, I kind of know what the team's number should be. Now comes Grand Canyon, who maybe I don't know what their number should be. Bryce Drew, who got completely screwed over at Vanderbilt. His dad, Homer, legend of the Mississippi Valparaiso game where they ran that, baseball pass. And the guy hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer. I think it was his kid, actually, to upset Mississippi. It was a great moment in NCAA tournament. And once again, by the way, there's your big underdog winning, and everyone remembering it. That epic, almost length of the court pass, and boom, 3-pointer good. Bryce Drew, excellent coach. His team was thought to be, one of the sleepers this year. Early in the year, they had these series of excellent games, which I won all of them because I thought Grand Canyon would be good this year because I'm a huge Bryce Drew fan. So they beat Nevada by 10. I think it was 10. So if I'm wrong about some of these scores, it's just because I'm doing it from memory. I'm not looking at anything. So I apologize, but I think I got that right. And then they lost Arizona State by 1 and lost to San Francisco by 3. And then the one that really sticks out was they played Colorado on a neutral court, and the game was basically on 2 late in the game. I think it fell like 8 or 10, but I know I want to bet on it. But so they covered something more than 10. So it was 10 or less they lost by. But it was basically on 2 late in the game. It was an absolute bloodbath. And, if they could take Colorado to the wire in a neutral court game, why not take Iowa to the wire? Iowa, yes, they're better than Colorado, but, Iowa's got some holes. They don't defend all that great. Grand Canyon has this 7-footer in the middle who should be able to bully Garza enough and maybe, take a little starch out of him. Garza's super smart and probably will have his way with him. The guy's not the greatest mover in the world. He's a Danish guy, Yurtgaard or something. I have watched Grand Canyon play, so I can talk a little bit about them. Drew is very willing to mix defenses. He has a matchup zone he throws in there. I'm not so sure how well that'll work against Iowa's shooters. But he's a really smart guy, and I would just expect him to have a really good game plan for this game. They're very capable of controlling tempo, which is not what Iowa wants. Although Iowa has played slower in the Big Ten, I think that's more a result of other teams playing slower rather than them wanting to play slower. The team who wants to play slow wins the battle, right? You can't stop them from playing slow. It's like Iowa's not going to go in full court press you, probably. So, although McCaffrey teams did that at Siena. But this team's not doing that. And so this could get into this grinded-out half-court game where, Grand Canyon's not completely out-athleted and they're not going to be out-coached. And I can see them hanging in there. So, some sort of bet on Grand Canyon plus 15 for sure.
Okay.
Nothing with a lot of excitement.
Okay.
Because what I found with these plus 15s is, maybe the first half might be better. Where they hang, and then when their backs get broken, it just goes from like 5 to 15 in no time, and you see that all the time. Where it just gets away from these underdogs, and you're holding your breath at the end. So I never really make big bets of these things unless I think they can win the game. Although if Grand Canyon won this game, it probably wouldn't shock me. So maybe a little bit more than a little bit.
Okay.
That's how I do it, by the way. When I start talking like this and something makes sense, then I go with it.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
That's what's been missing this year is my partner and I don't do it anymore. And I used to talk out every game with him, and we'd figure out what the real good bets were. And that's how I made my money for a long time. Was my big bets almost never lost. The last few years have just been really solid handicapping. And again, I think I can credit a lot of that to working with those kids, just make my numbers started better. Anyway, next.
Okay, we're gonna go to the East. I'm gonna skip the Michigan game because they play a play-in game, the play-in winner. So the next game is St. Bonnie's versus LSU.
Okay, really a kind of a brutal 8-9 game, as I mentioned before. So the line's kind of right. Like LSU should be a 1.5, 2-point favorite. That's exactly right. So what else is there? There's coaching. That's the other thing I look at. And it doesn't get any better than Mark Schmidt, the St. Bonnie coach. Just a total wizard with time to prepare, almost unbeatable. And that's what VCU found out in their A-10 title game. He just schemes the crap out of teams. And I don't know more I could say. The guy is incredible at player development. He's incredible at game prep. They have talent galore, but it is St. Bonnie type talent, not LSU type talent. LSU has elite talent. So who wins out the battle here? The lesser talented team that's not going to give away spit, or the erratic, mega talented team who you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, LSU was good enough to almost beat Alabama in the conference tournament final. They were good enough to beat Missouri on the road in their senior game. Obviously this team has an upside that's pretty big. However, they are prone to taking bad shots. They are prone to losing their minds defensively. And St. Bonnie will take advantage of every single thing there is. So I would only bet St. Bonaventure, because if I have a bet against Mark Schmidt in this spot and lost, I would probably want to hang myself. That is a Shaker Smart assistant at LSU. It's not. He's not a complete dope. But I'm not really a big Will Wade fan. So it's St. Bonnie or nobody for me. But it's really no bargain price wise. Because if you made a price in this game up until the last few weeks, it would have been somewhere around 5. and now it's just 1.5, 2. So it could be that people have just overreacted to St. Bonnie's recent tear, or they got a lot better because Mark Schmidt's the real deal, you know. But I would never bet against Mark Schmidt in a one-off game.
Okay. All right. We have Georgetown versus Colorado.
So everyone knows the Georgetown story. Win 4 games in 4 days in the Big East tournament, but let's go examine it. I know that Patrick Ewing made a little switcheroo and how they ran their offense. I can't tell you what it is, but I remember reading about it. And they started playing better after that. They had flashes during the year. They had huge leads in several games that they blew. They just couldn't finish it off, and then they learned how to finish it off. So do we believe the Georgetown pre-Big East tournament, or do we believe the Georgetown post-Big East tournament? Clearly, you know, a team that beats Creighton by 40, or whatever the hell they won by, and comes from 11 down to beat Villanova, and beats Marquette by 20, and beats Seton Hall, who needed the game to get in the NCAA tournament, you know, wire to wire, is a different animal than the one that lost to Navy at home. It's quite the turnaround, and great job by Ewing, and you know, I won't get into conspiracy theory about, you know, Creighton maybe dumping that game, which they certainly wouldn't do, but this was I will say this was massively important for the Big East. Like, if they wished one thing, they wished that Georgetown would have relevance again. You know, it's the old school John Thompson home run program. John Thompson, very, very important in basketball history. And Georgetown, a strong academic school with a good basketball team. You'd like nothing more than for them to succeed. And for their name to be out there again is just massive for the Big East. And it could put them like, you know, they're not what they once were. Remember Big Monday? I don't know if you're old enough for that. But that was like the original Monday Night Football for basketball. When Dave Gavitt came up with the idea of let's create this, you know, power league and show their games on Monday night on ESPN. That's before basketball games were even shown on TV. So the Big East Conference is massively important. They're the original go-to league to watch basketball. So to resurrect them from the dead would be amazing. And the one way to do that is to get Big East Georgetown back on the map. That throws one more team in there that has national prominence. Villanova, they get Uconn again, which was a good get for them. And a series of other teams that are really good. They have Butler in there. It's a strong league. But they need Georgetown to make it an elite league. And now they have them. So it was maybe a seminal moment for the return of Big East basketball. And everyone's aware of that. So you can take that for what it's worth. Georgetown played great in those tournaments, but Marquette, reading about them, the coach did not understand why they had no energy for the game. It's almost like, again, this COVID year has made things tricky. Some of these kids have just had enough, you know, locked in rooms and not being able to do this, not being able to do that. We're all suffering. But I can imagine a Division I athlete who wants to just get out there and play, you know, and it's been kind of a struggle the whole year to do that, could you know, just at some point just say, screw this, I don't need it. And that's how Marquette played in that Big East game. They were never in the game. It was over early, and Georgetown held on. The next round was against Seton Hall, I believe, who won in overtime the day before against St. John's. So just an absolute bloodbath of a game. They had nothing left. Georgetown handled them. Then came Villanova. I think Villanova came before Seton Hall, actually, so I apologize if I got it wrong. But Villanova had an 11-point lead with about 7 minutes to go in the game and pissed that away. But they're also down their point guard, Gillespie. And life without him has been very, very tough. Their backup, who was supposed to be out, did play, but didn't play all that great. And they kind of collapsed in a heap down to the end. It might have been good for them. They might need more practice and play to try to get their game in order without Gillespie. He's just a massive loss for them. He's the tremendous player. He's the leader on offense. He's the leader on defense. He's just a great player and a glue guy, which is a rare commodity nowadays. It's usually you're a glue guy or you're a great player. He's both. So it's a massive loss to them, and it's just a matter of how much do you knock Villanova and how much credit do you give to Georgetown for that. And then the last game against Creighton, who obviously had no interest in playing that game. They had won this just slugfest against Connecticut the day before that went right to the wire, and they had nothing left for the Georgetown game either. So, Georgetown played well, but they really never played a team at their best. So their rating got jacked to the moon, and I'm not so sure it's warranted. It's not a great team. It's a team that still lost to Navy at home early in the year. And Colorado was immense to start the year. Once again, a surprise team, just blowing through what they typically play to. I will say they won a lot of games at home this year. They play at altitude, and they had a real home advantage this year. That being said, this feels like a complete mismatch to me. My number is 6.5, but if you go before the tournament, it would be at least 8 Colorado. And I think that's probably a truer indicator of where this game goes, and I'm going to be betting Colorado -5.
Okay.
Not big, but I'll be betting it.
Okay. All right, the next one, NC Greensboro versus Florida State.
So the committee goes to work again on how to screw a mid-major. I figured we'd get to this one, too. So if you asked Wes Miller, the coach of Greensboro, what team do I not want to play? He would probably say Florida State, because Florida State's kind of a better version of them. Maybe Greensboro plays a little more intelligence, but Greensboro wants to press. They want to use their athletes to overwhelm you. And unfortunately, they're in the Southern Conference, and Florida State's in the ACC Conference. And Florida State's had massive success of just recruiting great athletes and letting them go play. So what Greensboro does not figure to bother Florida State at all. That being said, the line is too high, and the only way to go here is Greensboro, but the matchup is just disgustingly bad for them, and I'm just going to leave it alone. And again, I know I don't use matchups too often, but it just kind of feels like what Greensboro does to make them good won't be that effective here. Now, Wes Miller knows what he's doing, so he may tweak things a little bit. So there's no way you can bet Florida State. You can only bet Greensboro. My number in the game is 8. So as you can see, the line's 10.5, 11. That's pretty dramatic. But I don't know. There's something that's telling me maybe I should leave this alone. Florida State's very good about blowing teams out, and it just doesn't feel like Greensboro's going to do anything to really bother them much. And if that's the case, then there's trouble lurking, because Florida State's athletes are many in numbers and very, very, and just better than what Greensboro has. So I'm leaving it alone. But,
okay.
The line is too high.
Okay.
But maybe appropriately so.
Okay. I'm going to skip the BYU game because they're playing a play-in game, play-in winner. So Abilene Christian versus Texas.
This is Joe Golding and Abilene Christian. I think they'll be saying goodbye to him in Texas. He has done he's just done a super special job there. Like, this team was in D2 not long ago, and here they are just running roughshod over the Southland Conference, which, I'm going to point out Stephen Austin came to the Southland Conference and has made some good runs in this NCAA tournament. But this Abilene Christian team has just been unbelievable. Like, and there's where the danger is like, how good can this team actually be? That's the problem. Like, they're not recruiting like the greatest athletes in the world, and the coach has just done an amazing job in building this team. I will go to one game in their pre-conference. They went to Texas Tech and basically took them to the wire. So Texas Tech is in Texas are probably about even power rating wise. So if they can go to Texas Tech and take them to the wire, Texas won the Big 12 tournament. There's some chance that they might have a hangover from that. Not likely, but some chance that this will be, a difficult game for them to take as seriously. That's just a bonus shot. But the Abilene Christian Texas number that I made is only 6. 6. That's all I got this.
Okay.
That being said, can Abilene Christian possibly be as good as I have them? That's the dilemma. The results indicate yes. But maybe they're just really good at beating up on bad teams. Maybe this style creates a lot of blowouts. They have a very, very small team and very quick, and they generate a lot of steals. Are they going to be able to do that against Texas? I'm not so sure. Again, I'm not a matchup guy, so I don't know if Texas and guards are good at not turning it over. I imagine that Joe Golding will have something up his sleeve here. That being said, a similar Abilene Christian team, once it played Kentucky in the first round, a few years ago and got their heads caved in like it was over in 5 minutes. That was an elite Kentucky team. This is not an elite Texas team. And this version of Abilene Christian is far superior to the one that got blown out by Kentucky. I think Abilene Christian has an excellent chance to win this game, and I will be making a big bet on them +9.
Okay. All right, Maryland.
And then the matchup guys will tell you that they're just going to get absolutely destroyed on the boards, and there's no stopping the height that Texas has. But screw that, I don't care. The coach is fantastic, and he'll figure it out.
Okay. All right, Maryland versus Uconn.
So the first word of caution here is R.J. Cole, the MEAC transfer, who's Connecticut's point guard, who has absolutely shocked me by being almost an elite point guard in the Big East, is in concussion protocol. I read the paper yesterday. I haven't gotten today's paper yet because I'm talking to you, but he's still in concussion protocol. If he's out, that's a major, major loss to UConn. Tremendous job by Mark Turgeon this year, taking this kind of team that less talented than prior incantations of Maryland have been, and finding ways to get the absolute max out of them. They're kind of a small team. They have a lot of he runs a lot of 4-out looks, I believe, and they've created a lot of his offense has created a lot of opportunity to get open threes, which is what the game is now. They've defended better than you'd expect for a smallish type team. They've had a home run year, really. I mean, they've won several big games on the road, and just props to him for really. I don't think he's the best, but he's done a very good job this year. Connecticut, when Bouknight came back from his injury, they've just kept getting better and better and better. It's almost like Bouknight injuries forced other guys to, raise their level. And now that they got Bouknight back, they have players who've raised their level, and Bouknight, who's just, one of the best players in the country. Connecticut lays over this team. I made the game 5. However, Maryland's got that chip in their shoulder mentality. Even Hurley, the coach of Connecticut, says, "I don't know what I'm going to get out of this team. Like, I never know what's going to happen day to day." So there is caution for, one, the coach saying, "I don't know what I'm going to get from this team," and two, R.J. Cole's status, which is of massive importance. If he plays, I am definitely betting Connecticut. In fact, I've already bet Connecticut. But if he's out, I'm going to get off most of it. I just don't need it. I'm not. Connecticut's playing to a very, very high rating. I think they're capable of it. But when the coach starts saying, "I don't know what I'm going to get," and he's being honest, he's not trying to blow smoke up anyone's ass. He's a straight shooter. His dad was the real deal. His dad's awesome. So the line's too low, but it's fraught with danger. So just like a medium-ish bet on Connecticut. If it went back to 2, I'd make a big bet, but it's not going to. And if it goes back to 2, it means R.J. Cole's out, so you don't really want it.
Okay.
Next.
All right. And then wrap up the East, Iona versus Alabama.
Yeah, this will be the great story. And, Rick Pitino's return to basketball from Greece. And he lands in his old stomping grounds in New York. And he's a New York guy. And, there's all kinds of talk about him taking other jobs now. And I don't think so. I think he said he wants to build this to be the Gonzaga of the East, and I think he's staying there. I don't think if Indiana offered the job, I don't think he'd take it. If UNLV offered him the job, I don't think he'd take it. Honestly, I think he's been rumored to the UNLV job a million times. I just don't. I think he's there. He's an older guy. He's accomplished all you can in the hoops world, right? I mean, he's coached at the highest levels and won championships in college. I remember seeing him do at a summer camp, he did his own little hour teaching session, and he was just brilliant. This is when he was at Boston University, 1985, I think it was. Just really knows basketball, and I think his better coaching comes at the mid-major level. I didn't think he was any kind of genius at Louisville. I thought he was a genius getting Ralph Willard down there and bringing his matchup zone in, and the combination of matchup zone and full court press that he had was devastating. He's really smart. He was the first guy to understand that 3 points beats 2. As simple as that is, 3 is greater than 2. Most coaches didn't get it. They had to wait for the computer to tell them the analytics say that you should be shooting 3s. Oh, wow. what a novel idea. Let's try to make 3 instead of 2, you know? It's just so unbelievable. This world is so fucking crazy. Like, you need a computer to tell you that 3 beats 2? But that's what happened, and now they all bomb threes. You know, it's just a 3-point shoot fest, and, you know, they completely ruined the game of basketball, in my opinion. The idea is to make layups, not shoot from 30 feet. So now we have the step-back 3 as a bonus, you know, a really stupid shot that now goes in often enough when it looks so cool you have to do it, right? Because it's all flash, not reality. That's the world we live in. I'll have everyone in a nice, cynical place after this. So where was I? Iona. Yeah, so great job by Pitino, as expected. And this line is too high. However, this Alabama team is not one to screw with. Nate Oates, who did work miracles at Buffalo, now has far superior talent at Buffalo, and this team, at times, looks like the national champion. And in fact, I have them at 29-1 because although they'd be a big dog to Gonzaga, I can see this team where they turn defense into a 3-point shot almost immediately. They're like the one team that might be able to beat Gonzaga because they could just start bombing in threes and hit 20 out of 33s. And, you know, they've beaten some really good teams by 30 points this year. It's no joke when they start getting hot from 3-point land. And it's almost unstoppable because it happens almost instantly. There's just no stopping it, you know. They make a good defensive play. The ball's got down the court in 2 seconds. The guy hits a 3. And it happens a few times in a row, and you're down 10 within 30 seconds. It's just crazy. So I'm not betting Iona like the rest of the world is. And you know, I my number is lower. My number's 14 on this game. But I really think Alabama beats them by 30. I really do. So, you know, I'll let my gut rule here and just leave it.
Okay. All right, we'll go to the Midwest and start with Drexel and Illinois.
Yeah, this is a complete mismatch. I write for the Drexel blog, and they're all very nice. And, of course, you know, I went to school in Philadelphia, for those who don't know. The school next to Drexel I went to. And Drexel, there's nothing here that Drexel can do to stop the onslaught, unfortunately. They'd have to, I wrote up the preview for this for the alwaysadragon.com, and they have to do something unique to try to win this game because there's no way they can stop anything Illinois does. And so they're going to have to milk the clock, which is really not what they do. They're going to have to hit a lot of threes, which they have been doing, but they've been hitting them at such a high rate that, and here it is. You ready? There's some regression expected, which, by the way, is not true, but, you know, because that regression could come 6 months from now. You don't know. It's these people with these numbers are just, none of them are statistically relevant. They haven't had enough games to fucking make this statistically relevant. So, yeah, regression's coming, but when is it coming? Right? And math people might know better than me, but that's just the way I look at it. So I really don't care that they've shot. And there was some statistic, I just read it actually. Someone tweeted they've been shooting like over 50% from 3-point land since February. It's just nuts. They got their 3-point spacer, Matty Okros, back from injury, and you know, they ran through that tournament. But the tournament was kind of a mess. Almost every team in the Colonial had COVID lockdown issues, and most of them hadn't played for 5-6 weeks. When they played Northeastern was just gassed. They had been in lockdown for a while. They were down 2 starters, and they had nothing in the tank after playing the day before. And, you know, Drexel took advantage. Good for them, they did. But they were also very fortunate. James Butler hit a 3 with the shot clock at 0 when they were ahead 1 and the game was starting to get away from him. And he's not their 3-point shooter. He was 3 for 3 in the entire tournament. 3 for 3 the entire tournament. And then Elon, they played Elon in the final. Elon had their 4th game in 4 days and had a lot of young players. And Drexel has a lot of experience and was on their 3rd game in 3 days. And again, Elon had nothing in the tank. So Drexel's run through the tournament was really kind of like, so what? And there's just nothing they can do to stop Illinois, offensively or defensively. You know, they got that Kobe Cockburn, which is a complete animal, 7 foot, 290 or something. Drexel's got nothing like that. And as a result of him being there, it's going to allow Illinois' guards to just overplay and extend. And, yeah, Cam Winter's a very, very good ball handler, but no one else is. And, I can just vision them doubling him and making him give up the ball, and then turnovers are coming and dunks are coming in the other end, and I would expect this to be a blowout.
Okay.
The line's 22.5. It's already gone up, and if anything, I'd bet the favorite. I struggle with these big point spreads things because to me they're kind of random. It's just it's sometimes how much does the team want to win by. Sometimes they put the subs in and they let up with the game 2 days later. So to me it's kind of random, but I would expect Illinois to kill them.
Yeah, they could kind of call their own shots sometimes.
This is a name to score type thing, I believe.
Yeah.
But they just won the Big Ten tournament, and this is kind of a throwaway game to them. They have more important games on the horizon, so maybe they'll have that kind of attitude. But if they do, Underwood, who's an excellent coach, will snap them back into reality. And this is not going to be good for Drexel. I might bet this, actually, now that I'm talking. All right, next.
Okay. You already kind of touched base on it, but I don't know if you want to add more to Georgia Tech Loyola.
No, we talked about that. It's Loyola or nobody. Okay. Oh, as a note here, Moses Wright might be out for Georgia Tech. There's some rumor that he's not going to play. He's the ACC Player of the Year, so I imagine he means something. He's a forward who took up basketball late and has evolved into just a monster player for Georgia Tech. I really feel for Josh Pastner. He's done a great job there and he's got nothing but heat for doing a great job and now has this home run year and gets stuck in this ridiculous 8-9 game against a team that he can't beat. So let me comment one more thing here. Georgia Tech plays this real funky 1-3-1 zone that morphs into what I think, and I haven't heard anyone else really talk about this, and again, I'm not a basketball expert. It almost looks like a box and one with their point guard kind of like going after the ball handler. But it's a box of one that's evolving. It's not this static box of one. That's what it looks like to me. It's when people watch it, they don't know what the hell it is because it never kind of looks the same. I think that's the best way to describe it. That it starts as a 1-3-1, which is always difficult to deal with because you can trap a lot out of that, and it's just a unique look that gives teams fits if they're not ready for it. But then they switch from that to this. And that's what it is. It's a box and one with the point guard as a great defender, just kind of like going where he wants and usually trying to ball handle and making his life miserable. The problem is that Porter Moser at Loyola Chicago is a Rick Majerus disciple, and he's a genius. I mean, and he's going to solve this puzzle of the Georgia Tech zone that not many teams have, and I think he will. And Krutwig in the middle just never makes a mistake. They'll figure out ways to get the offense run through him. I believe they will. This should. I just think he'll figure it out, Porter Moser, and when he does, now Georgia Tech is not the most talented team on the planet. They are senior dominated, but I just think that Loyola's the real deal. I mean, and Moser, he ran some team to the Final Four before, and this team's playing at a much higher level than that one. So why not? The problem is Illinois next round, but we'll get to that at some other point. They certainly have a chance to beat Illinois. They have a chance to beat anybody. This guy is, except maybe Gonzaga. No one's beating Gonzaga. This guy's such an amazing coach. Watching them play is a joy, and I look forward to watching them play. But if Moses Wright's out for Georgia Tech, they're in a world of shit here. So it's Loyola Chicago for me, and I missed all the numbers, and I'm going to lay 3 for a little. Not much.
Okay, Oregon State versus Tennessee.
Yeah, all right, so here's the game of the year to me. Oregon State kind of mirrors Georgetown in they didn't have a very good year, and then comes the conference tournament. And then they started coming on at the end of the year. Again, Wayne Tinkle, just a tremendous job. I don't know how he got this team to play to this level, but, and I'm glad, too, because he was under a lot of heat there for Oregon. No one's won at Oregon State, right? They haven't had any relevance for years. I don't remember the last time they had a pro there like 30 years ago that mattered, but really nothing much from that program. Kind of like the doormat of the Pac-12. So here comes Wayne Tinkle along, and his kid was a tremendous player, and they had chances when his kid was roaming the court to make the tournament and didn't do it. And this was probably his last hurrah. COVID probably saved him last year, and now this year comes, and here they are. They're in the NCAA tournament. So I'm really happy that they made it because I'm a huge Wayne Tinkle fan. He mixes defenses a lot. He throws a lot of tricky zones out there. Tennessee doesn't figure to handle that very well. But, and this is the big but. So coach to coach, and what the coaches are going to do, big edge Oregon State. I don't think Rick Martin's any kind of genius. Done a great job at Tennessee, but X's and O's aren't his thing. The problem is if people go back to the beginning of the year when Tennessee first was shown on the court and they were just running roughshod over everybody. And I'm going to just go to one game here. Their first conference game was in Missouri. Tennessee was a 4.5-point favorite at Missouri and won by 20. Now, the first conference game is a good one to look at because that's the start of a new year. That's the year that really matters to most of these teams. Missouri's in the tournament as a decent seed. They're a very, very good team, and Tennessee just made mincemeat out of them. Yes, they leveled off after that. Yes, they have two freshmen playing a lot of minutes. But, and again, big but, they have not played a lot of games lately. And Rick Barnes said that we needed the time off to kind of like recharge the batteries. So they played Florida twice, buried them both times, once without Fulkerson, and we'll get to him in a second. And then they played Alabama, and they had a 15-point lead on Alabama. And then it kind of just got away from them. That was without Fulkerson. Now, Fulkerson had a facial issue. He had facial reconstruction, I believe, and he's with the team. And, I think he's playing. The way the line is moving indicates that he's not, but I don't even care if he does. Because this is such a mismatch in talent that Oregon State is going to struggle to get shots off. Defensively, Tennessee is just elite, and athletically, they're elite. And they should just unleash that athleticism on Oregon State, and it should be game over. I mean, it's just Oregon State winning a conference tournament against a bunch of apathetic teams or worn-out teams is all well and good. But playing a fresh and focused Tennessee team, who I'm going to remind everyone was 4.5 at Missouri and won by 20, just that game alone is good enough to murder Oregon State. And I would expect this to be a very, very easy game that'll be over very quickly, and we'll never be sweating it. And I am all in on Tennessee at -8, and now it's 7.5. So there you go. And by the way, I do think Fulkerson's playing. Okay. It kind of reads that way.
Okay. Liberty versus Oklahoma State.
That's it. Whoever's listening to this thing, that's the one bet you want to make.
Okay.
Liberty Oak State, yes. So another brutal draw for a team that probably didn't deserve it. However, Oak State supposedly had a one-year ban on their program, which magically got lifted because they have someone named Cade Cunningham who they'll be promoting the crap out of him. I can hardly wait for the Cade Cunningham bobblehead doll or shirts or whatever the hell they're going to sell to make money. But he'll be promoted big time. He's like the lottery pick or the number one pick in the overall draft. He's an awesome talent. The team played just tremendously down the stretch. And that might be the problem. Here's a team that played Texas Tech twice, Baylor twice, Oklahoma and West Virginia twice. The last 7 games. Now they're playing Liberty. And Liberty presents a unique set of problems. The Liberty team last time in the tournament, they beat Mississippi State, and I believe they took Virginia Tech to the wire. Yes, this team's not quite that team. It's a little different, but it's the same coach, the same style, that same extended pack line defense, which fortunately Oak State seen something similar when they played Texas Tech, but not quite. And Liberty controls tempo. They bomb threes at a high rate, and they can shoot them from anywhere. They got this little guard, I forget his name, but he just pulls up from 40 and hits it. This is psychologically going to be a brutally tough game for Oak State to play, right? They just played 7 top 20 teams in a row, and now they're playing Liberty. Just human nature-wise, they're going to have a hard time having it all for this. And Liberty is fearless. They played some big schools early in the year. They went to Missouri and almost won. They almost beat Purdue. They did beat South Carolina. In fact, they murdered South Carolina. And I believe they beat Mississippi State. I'll have to look that up. In fact, let me look that up so I'm not talking nonsense here. And And a close loss to TCU does not look good now, but at the time, I think that was okay too. So this team is not going to have any fear or any worries. They're going to have a lot of confidence. They beat Mississippi State 84-73. They hit 19 out of 39 threes in that game, though. So, that's what they can do. So they lost to Purdue by 13. No disgrace there. Purdue turned out to be a juggernaut. Beat Mississippi State by 11. Beat South Carolina by 16. And then lost TCU 56-52. And then came St. Francis. Then at Missouri, they took them to the wire, which really surprised me, actually. I didn't really give them any kind of chance to take them to the wire. And then their conference came, and they played very well. And now their unique style, which is always what you're worried about in the NCAA tournament, against a team that might not have a lot of pizzazz for this. They just played all these monster games, ran out of gas in the conference tournament final against Texas, and now have to regroup and play this group. And I just can see them just not being ready. And if that's the case, Liberty's going to take advantage. So good chance of an upset here. I don't think you're getting enough points to bet Liberty. Like the game figures a little higher than 7. But I think they probably did bet the winner here. It opened 9 and went down to 7. So, I probably would have taken 9 myself for something just because of what I just said. So that's it for that. Next.
Okay.
Richie Cage does an unbelievable job at Liberty. And even though Liberty is a disgusting school who does all kinds of disgusting things, let's look at it from a basketball standpoint. And the guy is just a tremendous coach. He's been around a long, long time. He's actually, props to him for changing his ways and bringing this kind of extended pack line defense in. And the reason I know that is I watched him play. Anytime I watch play, I kind of do know what they do. But I don't watch a lot of games, so that's why I don't really want to talk about that a lot.
Okay. All right. Syracuse versus San Diego State.
Yes. So when I got really stoned the other night, it really kind of hit me. I ate an edible and got really stoned and started talking about basketball with somebody, and I came up with this. So San Diego State, once again, tremendous draw by Ducher, just tremendous. And Syracuse, just not a good team this year. Came on a little at the end. Someone just sent me a note. Screw them. And Syracuse, in all honesty, doesn't really belong in this tournament. So why are they there? Because the same reason they're always there. They sell more gear than anybody. Them in Kentucky are 1-2 in selling gear. And that's it, Syracuse has always gotten a lot of breaks from the committee, and this is no different. They're not a good team this year. That being said, as the year went on, they got better. The zone they have has always presented a unique set of problems for this tournament. Teams just don't know what to do with it. You can't emulate these long athletic guys that Syracuse has. They're not replicated. And it's so hard to prepare for this zone that as piss poor as their offense typically is, their defense more than makes up for it. I recall when they beat Arizona State in the play-in round and then won 2 more games. This feels eerily similar to that. Their 3-2 zone has a lot of nuance to it. It often takes a long time for players to learn it. He had several new players that were broken into the lineup this year, and it feels like at the end of the year they just got better at playing that zone, much like they did a few years ago when they made a little bit of a run in the tournament. Now in San Diego State, they're catching a team that doesn't give away spit, that defends really well, but offensively they're a little challenged. A lot of the San Diego State's offense is from defense. Not that Syracuse runs great offense, but they're kind of the same. They get a lot of their offense from defense. And Syracuse now shoots a lot of three-pointers. He finally caught up with what you're supposed to be doing. And San Diego State's defense gives up three-pointers. So it feels like a good matchup for Syracuse. It feels like a game, once again, that on the surface, how are they going to win? But then when the game starts going, you're watching this team, San Diego State, get no good shots against the zone. And in my stone state of affairs, it's, this is so eerily similar to that season a few years back where they made this run from nowhere, where they just had this disaster year, came on a little bit at the end, admitted that they were just getting used to the zone. And now this season's been a shortened season, no preseason, strange practice rituals. It makes sense that it took time for this the nuance of the zone to hit home. So I could see Syracuse winning this game. That being said, I don't think 3 is enough to take, but 3.5 might be, and that's the only way I'd go with Syracuse. As much as I just can't stand that team, I'm trying to make money, not make myself happy. So it's almost kind of a free roll, actually. Because if I bet Syracuse and I lose, I'm kind of happy that they're out. So I hope it goes to 3.5 because I will be betting Syracuse for something.
Okay. All right. Moorhead State versus West Virginia.
Yeah, Bob Huggins, my favorite. Great job by Preston Stradler this year at Moorhead. Like, they just came from nowhere to run teams out. But this is they have some major league issues here. He runs kind of a. I watch Moorhead play also, so he runs kind of a Calipari type offense, which really isn't running offense, except he does kind of run some offense. They kind of clear out for isolations for the dribble drive, and they're pretty effective at it. And defensively, they're really, really good. They have this freshman Broom in the middle who's a complete freak of nature, but he hasn't faced anyone like Culver for West Virginia before, and again, it's a little older guy who may have the advantage on a freshman. And I mean, no one's going to out-prepare Huggins. No one. So the talent favors West Virginia. The coaching favors West Virginia. And what Moorhead does well with the big freshman center there, they run a lot of stuff through. He's kind of the anchor of the team. He could be in a lot of trouble. And when Schwebe transferred out for West Virginia, Huggins went to more of a spaced out offense, more of a 4-out look. That's what he said he was going to do anyway. I don't know if that's what he did, but they're offensively, they've gotten a lot better since Schwebe left. And I just don't see Moorhead hanging in this game at all. I really don't. Huggins is the real deal. He's the best. He's among the best. So you have the talent edge and the coaching edge, and even as more of a bonus for West Virginia, they got knocked out early in the conference tournament. Derek Culver had the flu, could barely walk, and try to gut it out. But they really need him. He's the key to their team, and they didn't have him against Oak State and lost. But I think that's good for them. Gives them fresh legs for the tournament. These teams that win conference tournaments often struggle in this first round game, so everything favors West Virginia, and there's no reason why they won't kill them. The line's right, so I didn't do anything with it. But, if you want to bet every game on the board, I would bet the favorite here.
Okay. All right. Rutgers versus Clemson.
So Clemson started the year like they were like one of the best teams in the country, which shocked me. Brad Barnell does an amazing job there, but he just gets out-recruited. He can't recruit with the big boys. And so he has to make, something out of not a lot, and he does it every year. However, since their COVID lockdown, they haven't been the same team. They've had their moments, but, blowing out Pittsburgh in a lame duck game is probably not anything to write home about. And then they went out rather meekly to a Miami team that had no players left. And even the last game of the year at Syracuse, which I thought mattered to Clemson, they were kind of, I watched it. I wasn't impressed. Rutgers, strangely enough, as they got healthier, played worse. But Piquel is just absolutely terrific. I like Burnell, too. I think this is a really good coaching matchup. They both defend with a lot of fervor and a lot of smarts. Points will be at a premium here. But I think Rutgers' upside is way bigger than Clemson's, and I don't like what Clemson's done since the COVID lockdown. And what's happened this year quite often is, and you saw it with Baylor when they came out of lockdown, they haven't been the same team as they were before. It's almost like it's a new set of power ratings. It's almost like a new season for them. I know 2 weeks isn't much, but that's how it's happened. These teams have just struggled to find their way again. It's like their rhythm is thrown off, and it's a screwed up year as is. So if Clemson doesn't find that magic from earlier in the year, this could end pretty badly for them. They bet Rutgers up a little bit, but at some point I might just bet Rutgers myself for a little bit, just because I'm talking now and it makes sense. I really don't see them losing this game, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's Rutgers or nobody.
Okay. Cleveland State versus Houston.
Dennis Gates, amazing job. at Cleveland State. Just listen to his press conferences; they're wonderful. He's such a throwback. He tries to create this family dynamic there, and he's done so. And they all bought in. He uses a lot of players. Changes defenses. Offensively, they're a little challenged, but he wants them to be careful and control tempo, and just an unbelievable job. He says, I'm trying to recruit kids who have a chip in their shoulder, who'll buy into the family type mentality, and he has done that. Just an incredible job. This was a program dead in the water. He did really well last year, and this year was just a phenomenal job. So, I doubt he'll be at Cleveland State much longer. He's really, really, really good. Unfortunately, so Cleveland State gets his teams to play as hard as imaginable because he just rotates guys in and out, and they just go all out for X number of minutes that they're on the court. I love that approach, by the way. I think using 10, 11 guys is the way to go. That's what Ricky Bird did at Belmont. That's what he told Mike Bray to do. Just, throw 5 in and 5 out there. So, why not? These guys practice every day. Why not let them go out there and play their asses off for a few minutes, If you're well coached and give a lot of effort, something good's going to happen, even if you're a little less athletic than the other guy, because the other guy maybe has been out there a little longer. So it's not a bad way to play, and it creates that family-type atmosphere. So Cleveland State he's done everything right the entire year. Unfortunately, Houston also plays their asses off, and athletically it's a complete mismatch. I'm not sure what Cleveland State can do to stop the onslaught, but Gates is a lot smarter than I am. And I think they have one little hope here. Eichelberger, their starting center, who's an absolute joy to watch. When he's on the court, they run everything through him, and he does not make mistakes. He's very good one-on-one. He doesn't look the part. He's this kind of like big, lumbering guy, but he's just super smart on the basketball court. He makes the right pass. He makes the right play 100% of the time. If they could limit the turnovers, which might be hard, and limit the offensive rebounding, which might be hard, and they can get Eichelberger in the offense, they will milk the shot clock, that's for sure. They play this matchup zone that could be kind of hard, although Houston's a good three-point shooting team, and, there's some chance they can hang. I'm not expecting it, but I'm not betting against that guy either, so pass.
Okay.
But,
all right,
but do watch Dennis Gates' press conferences. They're really awesome. If you want a smile on your face, they're awesome.
Okay. All right. Well, the last bracket section we have here is the Baylor side.
We have 15 minutes to do this. Let's go.
Start with Hartford Baylor.
Okay. I'm very, very happy that John Gallagher got in the tournament. The coach of Hartford, he's a Philly guy. He's madly respected in the industry. He's very well liked in the industry. He did a tremendous job at Hartford this year. They really lack talent. And Baylor has beaten far better teams by then. They've had 30-point leads on far better teams than Hartford. This is a complete runaway and another name to score. There's nothing Hartford can do to stop the onslaught. Nothing. He pulled a little 1-3-1 unexpectedly to win the conference tournament finale, but that won't work here either. He has nothing he can do. He can try to slow the game down, but Baylor's athletes are just overwhelming. And Hartford has Tracy Carter. They have one really good player. He's a Marquette transfer, which is kind of an elite talent for the NEC. But 1 versus 7 is not going to win. It's a blowout.
Okay. All right. Wisconsin.
I will point out that I did not bet Baylor yet, but I might bet a little something on it. Again, these big favorites I think are a little dicey because it's just a matter of what the coach wants to win by.
Sure. Okay. Wisconsin, North Carolina.
Talk about polar opposites. So Wisconsin's another team that came back with 5 starters returning and started the year off really well. But they've kind of like shown their true colors as the year's gone by here. They've had some bad losses to end the year and unexpected losses. And it turns out they're really, not some great team. Luckily for them, they're playing North Carolina, who's also not some great team. North Carolina did get better as the year went on. They certainly are a more talented team than Wisconsin. There's no doubt about that. However, it's a real clash of styles. Wisconsin's going to want to grind this out, and North Carolina's going to want to up-tempo it. And so who wins that battle? And usually the team that grinds it out wins the tempo battle, right? They can always slow it down. It's not like North Carolina's going to be out there pressing, and it's not like Wisconsin's turning it over a lot either. The problem is it really feels like a complete mismatch to me. Like, just visually, if you watch these teams play, you just can't imagine Wisconsin staying within 10. But there's Greg Gard on one sideline and there's Roy Williams on the other, and that could overcome any 10-point deficit in talent. So you will not see me ever betting North Carolina in this game. I don't care what the line is, because I would not be able to sleep at night if I bet Roy Williams against Greg Gard and lost my money. So it's an absolute pass for me.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it. That's it. North Carolina figures to win, but if they don't, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay. All right. Winthrop versus Nova.
Poor Villanova. That's all I could say. Poor Villanova. Like, Jay Wright does it right. Oh boy, how bad's that? Jay Wright does it right. But he does. Like, you never hear of any. You never hear one word of cheating up there. They get players and they make it work. Mostly good players, by the way. I'm not saying they don't recruit good players. They do. But unfortunately, the loss of Colin Gillespie is just massive. And I think I said this earlier. He's the glue guy and their leader, and he's their point guard. He has the ball in his hands all the time. He never makes a bad decision. He's triple smart with the ball. He's a good outside shooter. He's a really good defender. He calls out everything on the offense, and he's the glue of the defense. Oh, he's not. He's the leader of the defense. So his loss is massive. But it's still Villanova. It's not like it's still Villanova. It's still an elite Big East team against a Big South team. Now, Pat Kelsey has just been incredible at Winthrop, and he's another one that uses a whole bunch of guys. They shoot a lot of threes. They take good shots. They have very good talent for a Big South team. It feels like a real tricky game for Villanova. My gut says Winthrop probably can win this game. But when the game starts and I see this is still Villanova against a Big South team, I might be wondering why the hell I bet Winthrop. So I didn't bet Winthrop, and I'm not going to bet Winthrop, even though my gut is screaming to bet Winthrop. But it might be my gut being a bit of a sucker here, maybe just looking at the obvious. Because Gillespie's loss is massive. It's still Villanova. And their program is an elite program. And it will be with or without Gillespie. So I would imagine that Jay Wright, uses this time to get his team back to, a little better level than they played when they blew that big lead to Georgetown. And, Gillespie got hurt in the Providence game. And they did come from way behind in that Providence game and almost got there. So it's not like they completely help us without Gillespie. I mean, not Gillespie. What am I saying? I just forgot the kid's name. Sorry. That is his name, isn't it? What a brain fart. Yeah, anyway, the point guard for Villanova.
Okay.
Why do I have Gillespie in mind? Because he's a coach of Tarleton State, and I took some heat for saying how good he was, but he's really good. Anyway, I'm not betting it. I'll enjoy watching this one.
Okay. North Texas, Purdue.
Yeah, when I mentioned before when North Texas won that I told my friend they'd be playing Creighton or Purdue, and here it is. Just this ugly matchup for North Texas. But is it? They have an unbelievable coach. Grant McCaslin was at Little Rock when they beat Michigan State in that massive upset years ago. And oh no, that was Chris Beard. I'm sorry. McCaslin was he was at Arkansas State. Anyway, he's just done an amazing job. And there's a couple ways of looking at this thing. This is going to be a real low game, so points are at a premium. Purdue, what more can you say? The guy does a great job. Matt Painter's fantastic. However, he has had a overachieving team this year, Painter. He had a very young team that wasn't really thought to be some great team, but he's molded them into a terrific year where they got better and better and better as the year went on. He's relying a lot on freshmen. Relying on freshmen in the NCAA tournament is not a good recipe. North Texas is extremely experienced, extremely well coached, and is going to play with a lot of freedom because they were 7 down with 2 minutes to go against Western Kentucky. Got the last 7 of the game and won it overtime. And despite their lack of size, completely shut Bassey down, which was he's an elite talent on Western Kentucky, 5-star recruit at Western Kentucky. So, bottom line, where do you go with this? It's kind of a tricky matchup for North Texas because you're catching them playing a super intelligent team. But the reverse is also true, where Purdue now also play a super intelligent team. And you have seniors versus freshmen always favoring North Texas. It's going to be a low game, points to the premium. So I'd be getting an underdog and nobody. I didn't bet it, but I think it's North Texas and nobody.
Okay. All right. Utah State versus Texas Tech.
Maybe one of the best games of the first round. 2 amazing coaches, Chris Beard and Kyle Smith. Jesus Christ, my brain is like just. This is the problem with getting old, by the way. Getting old, living alone in a pandemic with a Great Dane that recently passed is just not a good recipe for your brain functioning at a high level. But I mean, for me not to remember, it's Craig Smith, not Kyle Smith. Kyle Smith's Washington State. I'm really losing my mind. All right, I'm glad I got that right anyway. It's definitely Craig Smith. Sorry.
Okay,
just
no
a fantastic coach, both of them. But this Texas Tech team has really not been great. Like they pulled several games out of their assholes, like 12 down against LSU with a minute to go. I lost this game, by the way. They won in overtime there. And then from nowhere to beat Texas. I think the game against Texas in the conference tournament was kind of a good indicator of who they are. They're just about a Texas level. Is Texas level good enough to beat Utah State? Yes. But it seems like Utah State will solve Texas Tech's pack line. The guy is a wizard as a coach. The Cater in the center, the big guy in the center, has gotten better and better and better. He's an elite player now. He could shipwreck a lot of what Texas Tech wants to do. I absolutely think that Utah State can win this game, and I absolutely think they will win this game, and I have bet Utah State. So not to get too long-winded with this, but, you know, it's a pick-em game to me, and you're getting 4.5, 5. So, you know, go Aggies.
Okay.
If that's their nickname. Right. I might forget that too.
Yeah, I forgot. We got Colgate, Arkansas.
So Colgate, very difficult team to evaluate. They played nothing but Patriot League games. Matt Langle, UPenn grad. Go UPenn. Yes, anyone don't know, I went to UPenn also. So no bias, but maybe. Just an amazing job. Their offense is just a constant screening and moving, and it's just a joy to watch, and they will get 3-point shots off against anybody. You know, athletically, you would think that Arkansas probably lays over them, but Arkansas, to me, is the kind of team you kind of want to bet against. They're a young team in the tournament who had an overachieving type year. The problem is you don't know what you're getting with Colgate, but what you do know with Colgate is 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I forget which one it was, with a not quite the same team, and I'll get to that in a second. They took Tennessee to the wire in a first-round NCAA game and pretty much did it legit. It wasn't some, you know, bad effort by Tennessee. It was just Colgate was that good and that well prepared. They did have a big man that game who was excellent, and that's the difference. They do not have any kind of interior defender now, and that could lead to trouble against Arkansas. But Langle is an absolute wizard, and I would expect them to have Colgate very, very, very well prepared. And I think they're going to hit a lot of threes and get a lot of open shots. And Burns, the senior point guard for Colgate, is absolutely amazing. The other guard is blossomed too, and I think Colgate's got a good shot to win this game. Okay. And I definitely bet him.
Okay, we got 2 more: Virginia Tech and Florida.
Complete coaching mismatch. There's really not much more to say. Florida's got better talent. Virginia Tech has a huge coaching advantage, and the only way to go is Virginia Tech. Mike Young is one of the best, and Mike White is not. And I will say no more than that. Florida should be favored technically, but I don't think they can win, so I'm just leaving it alone.
Okay. And then finally, we have Oral Roberts versus Ohio State.
Okay, this is kind of a good one. So Ohio State had just a terrific year. Another great job by Holman. A guy I didn't really know a lot about. I was told he's really good, and when I watched him, I really didn't get it. But I'm starting to get it. Like he's legit. The problem is they could be down one of the good starters, Young, and Oral Roberts. They can't defend, but they just hit like 14 out of 26 threes one game, and then a whole bunch of threes the next game. They have 7 guys out there. They all shoot threes. They just go and bomb threes from anywhere. It's like, and they get a lot of good shots. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. The problem is they just give up so much on the other end. However, you know, when you have a 17-point line and a team shooting at threes and hitting them at a high level, and one of Ohio State's better defenders is out for the game, it's not hard to see that Oral Roberts hang in there. So I think Oral Roberts is a good shot to hang in there, and I'll be taking 17.
Okay.
I could say in honor of Janice Ian, but no one will get that reference.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. But
yeah.
I don't,
all right. Well, look it up.
Okay.
Janice Ian is a great song too.
Okay. So yeah, I know you have to get going, and that was the last game. So is there any final thoughts?
I think I don't want to get too romantic about this, but really, just try to enjoy the tournament as best you can. And it's hard for me to do because I see all the bullshit that goes on, and I can't stand it. And I've been told I'm nuts with this corruption shit, but I totally believe it. And it all makes sense. Like there's big money involved. Look at our government. If there's big money involved, evil's going to happen. And I believe there's a lot of evil in this tournament, and it makes it really difficult for me to enjoy it. So please, everybody, try to enjoy this. Try to find some game to watch and just revel in the fact that we get to watch a really good basketball tournament, a really great event that even the committee can't fuck up as much as they try. So I think Alabama's a good long shot to win it. I do expect Gonzaga, who's the favorite, to win it. They're just an elite team, and Mark Pope called them a generational team. That's the BYU coach, and he knows what he's talking about. So and they have a very good draw too. So I would expect Gonzaga to win. I'm hoping Alabama does. For my money.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Well, Alan, thanks for coming up. Yeah, no problem. And I'll post this, and if you want to retweet it or whatever, I'll tag you on it. And thanks again for joining.
I shall do that. Thank you very much.
All
Cheers.
Right. All right. Take care. Cheers. Bye.